Hi, everyone. Happy New Year, and thanks for attending. I'm Scott at Chief Architect, and we're here today to discuss interior dimensions for plans and to use the elevation and cross-section tools for your interior dimensions. You may notice my occasional assistant here, Maya. Also on today's webinar are a number of Chief Architect staff members to keep an eye on me and to help with your questions. I'll first go through my presentation, which should take about 25 minutes. During this time, you can chat questions to our staff. Also, following the presentation, we're going to take live questions. You'll find the controls to raise your hand for the live questions in your GoToWebinar control panel, also the chat option as well. Our session today will be recorded. We'll send that out in the next day or so. We'd appreciate included in there is a survey to get your feedback. So with that, let me switch over and let's get started with today's presentation. In this session, I will cover dimensioning for interior plans and elevations in Chief Architect. I'll go through setting up interior dimension defaults and using automatic and manual dimensions for the floor plan. Then, for elevations, we'll look at elevations for vaulted rooms and how to create a stepped cross-section view. When you create interior dimensions, they use your default settings. If you see dimensions like I have here and they look a bit cluttered, you can easily set up your defaults to generate the look you are after. In this example, I have used the settings I prefer. Let's begin with dimension setup in Chief Architect X12, then I'll repeat the process in X13 showing the differences. In this sample plan I have open in Chief Architect X12, my Save Plan View is currently set to the floor plan view dimensioned. And if you look at the Edit Active View settings, let's go in and take a look at the dimensions that is currently set up. Under 1/4 inch dimension defaults, there are a number that ship with our template plans. I will typically set one up specifically for interior room dimensions. And the way I do that is to just come in here and click on a new dimension default. It will make a copy of the current one you're on, and I'm just going to call this interior rooms. Now for the settings, let's just kind of walk down through the left panel. For the line separation, here's typically what I do. Again, this is a preference. I'm going to set this to be 12 inches for the line separation. The reach, which is typically how far it will go to locate an object. And then the automatic dimensions, I'm going to set that to be 15 inches for the line separation. And then for the first line offset, I'm going to also set that to be 15 inches. For the primary format, I'm going to change that from feet and inches specifically to be in inches. If you want to adjust the smallest fraction in this case, you might set it to be 1/4 inch or whatever resolution you prefer. Secondary format, I don't typically include one. There is an option here, locate objects. I make sure that this is always set to the surfaces for the walls. Since I'm building a purpose-built dimension default, I will typically turn off all of the other settings. No cabinets, no fixtures, furniture, openings, CAD, primitive, framing, and all other objects. The next setting I make a change for is the layer. When I use these tools, I like to put these on a specific layer. I'm going to change this from the Dimensions manual, click the Define button. This template plan doesn't have a specific dimension layer for interiors. I like to create one. So I'm going to make a copy of the dimension manual layer, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to call it Dimensions for Interiors. This will be for the interior room. And then for the arrow style, I like to snug this up a little bit, change it to be 3 inches. There's a number you can choose from. I'll just use a slash. And then the text style, how large a text that we're using. Currently it's set to be 1/4 inch, which is most likely the 6 inches. I'm going to come down here. I'm just going to use a custom text style, and I'm going to set that to be 4 inches. I've now created a custom dimension default for interior rooms, and it's my active dimension tool that will be used. Now, one of the easiest ways to create your interior room dimensions, click in the room. In the lower edit menu, I'm going to use the tool to create the automatic interior dimensions. Now, if we zoom in a little bit, you can see that the dimensions are locating the walls and the openings. This is a level of detail that I typically will turn off and only locate the walls. How do you do that? There is a setting specifically for your automatic interior dimensions. Let's go underneath the Defaults tool, and I'm going to come down to the dimensions, and specifically I'm going to take a look at the Auto Interior Dimension settings. On the Locate Objects panel, I'm going to come down and I'm going to remove the openings out of this setting. And then when I rerun the tool, let's go ahead and close this, click in the room, rerun the tool, you're going to notice the program does a pretty good job of locating the dimensions. It tries to omit like parallel dimensions, and you're going to notice that I'm missing a dimension on the right hand side of the room. In that case, I'm going to go ahead and use the manual dimension, and specifically the tool that I will use is the interior dimension, and I'm just going to come in here and slide right through the two walls and create the dimension. Again, my dimension default is set up to go to wall surfaces, so that is locating the surface finish for the walls. The dimension strings in Chief Architect can easily be modified. Once I've drawn this dimension, in this case that goes on the right hand side of the room, I can click on this dimension. Near where I click, you're going to notice there is an extra diamond. You can use this diamond where I could pull this onto the casing or the center of the window and add dimension points as I need to. For dimensions in kitchen rooms or bathrooms, we have an additional automatic dimension tool. Let's zoom out just a little bit. I'm going to take and switch the saved plan view. Currently it's on the floor plan, and I'm going to switch this over to the kitchen and bath view. It's going to prompt me to save this plan view because remember, I changed my dimension default to use the interior dimensions, and for the purpose of this session I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Now the first thing you're going to notice that the dimension that I just drew is now missing. Where'd it go? Well, that's a good question. If I click on the other dimension and we look in my status bar, that's actually on a layer called Dimensions Automatic, and when I created my dimensioning default, I created a new layer for the dimensions interior. Let's go ahead and turn that layer on in this view. Search for the dimension for the interior rooms. Go ahead and turn that on. If I want my automatic dimensions to appear on the same layer, and typically I do, I'm going to go back into my automatic dimension defaults and change the layer that those appear on. So I'm going to come back over into the auto interior dimension defaults, and I'm going to just use the exact same layer. So rather than using the dimensions automatic, I'm going to switch that so all of the dimensions that get placed for my interior rooms is using the exact same layer. And now every time I use that tool, they will appear on the same layer. The program also offers automatic dimensions for those rooms that are named kitchens or baths. Let's take a look by naming this room in this area to a bathroom. Let's double click and open it up. And I'm going to change the name to a bathroom. So let's just come down here, grab the bathroom, room type, and when we close the dialog, notice what happened to all of the dimensions for this room. The dimensions are placed automatically, and that happens when you have rooms that are named baths or kitchens. You can control that. Currently it is set in this particular template plan to be on automatic refresh. And if we go back in and take a look at where that setting is located, let's go under our default settings and over underneath our dimensions. And this is actually our NKBA, the National Kitchen and Bath Association Automatic Dimensions. Inside of this panel is the option for automatic refresh. You can turn that on, turn that off. If you turn it off and you rename a room, if I were to come in here and grab this room and name it a kitchen, Let's just change that to a kitchen room. Notice that the dimensions did not automatically appear because the automatic refresh is not turned on. You can click in the room and you'll find the automatic Nkba dimension tool right next to the automatic interior dimension tool. So these two dimension tools, one for the Nkba will place them more towards the guidelines that the Nkba offers, and the other one is a fairly simplistic that places the interior dimensions, and again both of these are kind of driven from your dimension defaults. Okay, it could be that went a little fast in covering that in X12. I'm going to repeat the same types of steps in X13, very similar to X12, but a few changes in the way it happens. In X13, I've opened up the same sample plan. I'm using the Save Plan View, Floor Plan View dimensioned, and the first thing I want to do in creating the interior room dimensions is come over and use the tool to edit the active view. For the dimension defaults, I'm going to come down, I'm going to make a copy of the plan dimensions just like we did previously, and we'll just call it the interior dimensions. So we'll just rename this interior dimensions. And when this opens up, again, we'll kind of go through step by step each one of the changes. On the general panel, slightly different layout. The setup automatic is actually for the line separator on a new panel. So again, I used 15 inches for the line separation and 15 inches for the first line offset. Then a little bit lower, when we named the room a kitchen or a bath previously and the automatic refresh was set to be on, this is actually located in this same panel for the Nkba auto refresh. Notice mine is currently turned off. When I name a room a kitchen or a bath, in that case it won't generate those dimensions automatically for me. For locate manual, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that each one of these locate the manual dimensions, and these new locate options, if you look at my dimension tools off to the side, I have the manual dimension tool, the interior dimension tool, end-to-end dimension tool. These are all now specifically called out. You have much finer control over your dimensioning and how it reacts. So let's just change all of these to surfaces for each one of those dimensions for this specific interior related dimension default that we are building. The exterior panel I don't care so much about. For the locate interior, again, make sure that we're locating surfaces, and for the interior I'm just going to simply turn off the fixtures and also openings, and again that's my preference. The other elements for elevation I'm not so concerned with because I'm more interested in the floor plan. Primary format, as we did previously, I'm going to set that to be in inches. The smallest fraction, I like to set mine at 1/4 inch for the interior rooms. No need for a secondary format. The layer, again, I like to build a custom layer, so I'll just click Define and make a copy of this, and I'm just going to come in here and call it Dimensions for the Interior. Arrow style, switch that over to just use a slash, make it quite a bit smaller, use 3 inches. The style for the text, how large that is, I'm going to set mine to be 4 inches. And that should be most of the settings that I need for this custom dimension default. Notice that it is using this dimension default. Let's go ahead and say OK. And then when I go ahead and click in the room, as we did previously, and we use the Auto Interior Dimension tool, it places those dimensions kind of as I've specified exactly the way it would work. And one of the added benefits in this case is it went ahead and located this side wall for me, and all of the dimensions look to be in good shape for this interior room. Using the automatic interior dimension tool, you can select multiple rooms. If I click on each one of these rooms, let's go ahead and grab the major rooms in here, and use the automatic interior dimension tool, it will place those dimensions for each of those rooms automatically for you. It may require some cleanup. Notice in this dimension string over here, it's picking up this wall that's coming in here. Grab the diamond, pull it off, and you can make an adjustment. You can also click on the dimension string. At the very end of the dimension string, you see this oblong, almost square-like icon. You can just pull that out, keep pulling it, and that will extend that like dimension all the way through the structure using the same properties to locate those items for your interior dimensions. Now this looks a little bit busy and you may need to do some cleanup. Let me just kind of zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to delete some of these dimensions. Just draw a marquee around those, press the delete key. Using the manual tool, a lot of times I may use this to be a little more precise, and specifically I use the interior dimension tool. This is looking for walls only. And then when I use this tool, you can kind of just click and drag right through these. You don't have to be too exact. Again, it's picking up that wall. Pull that off, set it up. Using the interior dimension tool, you can just click and drag right through each one of those areas and draw out your dimensions. Now, one of the things you can do with your interior dimensions, if we kind of look at this example down here at the bottom, let's double click on the dimension. You're going to notice one of the settings is to display wall widths. Currently, this is being suppressed. If you turn it on, you'll then see that dimension string for that wall. A lot of times I like to pull it up, and you can then display the wall widths for your interior dimensions. So using this interior room dimension tool is an easy way to also place your dimension strings precisely where you want them, and you can just kind of be approximate in your positioning and then move them around as you need to. Let's move on and take a look at elevations for vaulted rooms and how to generate elevation views for extended rooms like this bath and separate shower area. In this particular sample, the bath suite is a separate room from the shower style room. When you use the specific wall elevation tool and you cut a section through the wall, it restricts the view to only that room. And as I pull up the completed version of this, I want to see both the room for the bath and the shower simultaneously and put my dimension details on that view. When you create a section view that allows you to cut through that, let's just use a section camera, cut a section view through here. This is going to give you a view that has a lot of information, possibly too much information for an interior designer where you don't want to see the foundation, you don't want to necessarily see the roof. Some of those layers you can turn on and off, but other layers it's more difficult. And one of the things you can do today in Chief Architect X12 is what I call the digital whiteout approach. You can use a CAD box. By using a CAD box, I'll just kind of click and drag right through the area that I'm interested in. Then I can take this CAD box and put a fill style in it and also change the line style. For the fill style, many times what I do is just set this to be solid and turn it to be white so I can fill it. And then on the line style, you can either leave it to be a white or you can simply remove the line altogether, and then that will mask out that particular view. You can draw another CAD box up on the top, and let's just kind of come in here. We'll clip off the top. I can use the object eyedropper, pick up the previous properties, and then apply that onto the other properties for that CAD box. You can also take these CAD boxes using the break tool. You can either use the number 3 on the keyboard, or I have the break tool down here in my lower edit menu. Put a break in here, pull that down, put another break in here, pull it around, and I've created just the view that I want. Now, beginning in Chief Architect X13, we've allowed you to do clipping. Clipping has been possible with your cameras in a back-clipped cross-section view, or if you're using a wall elevation, you can also turn on back clipping. What we've done in these cameras, and I'll just open this up, is we've enabled clipping that you can do the back clip that I was just discussing. You can also clip to the sides and clip to the elevation, as well as clip to room. Let's take a look and let me regenerate a clean view so we can kind of start from scratch. So let me go ahead and close this dialog. Let's go back into our floor plan view. And what I'm going to do is I want to generate this exact camera view that I have up here on the screen. And I'm going to use the clipping tools to generate this style of a view. So again, using the cross-section camera, I'm going to come in here, cut a section through this area. Once the section view is generated, I'm going to open up the Edit Active View. I'm going to come down and I'm actually going to start with clip this to the room. This is actually going to convert this view to a wall elevation. You can start with a wall elevation and remove the clip to room and get to the section view we were just looking at. Once this is clipped to the room, I find it easy because it's already set the parameters for the ceiling and also to the side extents. I'm going to go back into the Edit Active View, and then I'm going to come over and uncheck Clip to Room. That was a helpful tool to start the initiation for the clipping. Once the clip to room is removed, then I'm going to come over to the side where the shower is, click very close to the room area. You can see a red highlight on this clipping line. Let's just pull it quite a ways out so we can see the edge for the shower. And now I can simply pull that back in and snap that onto the edge of the shower. And very quickly, I've been able to generate the section view for an elongated room. And actually part of this bathroom has a vaulted ceiling, and generate just the view that I want. To dimension the view, the first thing I'm going to do is confirm my dimension defaults are set up. I'll come underneath my Edit Active View, see that my dimension defaults are set to kitchen and bath dimensions. Then I'm going to use the automatic Nkba elevation tool, place the dimensions. I will clean those up as I need to for the view and then send that out to my layout sheet. Now let's move on and take a look at situations where you actually have a vault at the end of a room and you need to generate a view similar to what I have on the screen here. In Chief Architect X12 for vaulted rooms, the wall elevation tool will clip the view at the defined ceiling height. In this case, using the cross-section elevation tool and the digital whiteout approach we used in the bath will get you to this type of a view. For Chief Architect X13, wall elevations for rooms without ceilings or those that are vaulted will show the full wall height. The elevation camera has an option you can use to ignore walls above to crop the view at the room's defined ceiling height. And when dimensioning this type of view, the upper walls can be located. And now the dimension text can be rotated using this new rotate handle. Let's look at a slightly more complicated view for this end wall at the closet and shower. In the plan view, I'll use the cross-section elevation camera and cut through the end of this wall. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the Edit Active View tool, come down, and I'm going to use the Clip to Room option. That's going to isolate it to the closet area, and that establishes a good clipping plane. Then I'm going to go back into that same setting and turn it off. With that done, I'm going to click very close to the edge right in here. We'll just pull it out so that I know that it's past the section of the bath area. And then we'll just kind of clip that in. And then I'm going to use the number 3 or the break tool on my keyboard. And I'm going to put a break right in this area right here. Then I'm going to pull this up until it's parallel or so. And then I've been able to use that clipping tool to generate the view where I have a flat ceiling in this area, part of a vault in the bathroom area, and then of course the closet also has the vault. The final tool I'll show is a step section view. There may be cases where you want to step a view around elements in your design, such as this closet. In this example, I don't want to show these center cabinets in the view. I'm going to use the cross-section tool, come over, cut a section through the wall, Then, as we did previously, I'm going to come up, edit the active view. I'm going to clip it to the room. That will clip to the closet itself. I'll remove that clipping since it's preserved it. Then I can come in, click very close to the edge in here. We'll just pull this up until we know it's plenty high enough. And I'm just going to step it down right onto the top. We'll pull this one over as well. I now have the view that I want, and you can see those center cabinets that I need to crop out of the view. Back over into the plan view. You can see my section view is grayed out since it's currently active. I'm going to come down into my lower edit menu, use the break tool. I'm going to click a break approximately in this area, and then I'm going to do the same thing, click a break approximately in this area. Then I'm going to pull that section so that it's past the cabinets. You can see that I already have an existing view. We'll place it very near that area. We'll go back up into the elevation camera, and you no longer see those cabinets. You do see my clip lines. That's a layer you can turn off. If I come over into my active layer display, we turn off the clip lines. You can turn those lines off, and that will clean up your view when you send it out to the layout sheet. Well, that wraps up this session on interior dimensions. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. With that, as you raise your hand for any questions you may have, make sure that you unmute your mic when Carrie calls on you. And with that said, Carrie, are there any questions out there that we can help folks with today?
Hey, Scott, I'm going to call on Doug Norton. Hey, Doug, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, so the question was that one of the suggestions for X13, and I didn't see it, but I'm kind of secretly hoping that it's really there, is that when you place a dimension, you have the ability to do a second click to place how far the offset of the dimension is from the item that you're dimensioning. So if you're using an end-to-end dimension, for example,
yeah,
and you click on two intersections, that puts the dimension line with the dimension immediately over top of the whatever's between those two intersections. So
okay.
now you have to click on that and drag it out from the wall or from whatever it is that you've just dimensioned.
Sure.
If you have a two-click option, you click the first point, the second point, and then the third click is where that actual information appears.
Right.
So that's the way that a number of other CAD programs like AutoCAD work.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I did know that several people have made that in the suggestion thing in the forum.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was really happy to see you being able to rotate the dimension text. That's something that is going to really help a lot, cleaning up a lot of things. So anyhow, that's my question. If the answer is no, so be it.
So Doug, thanks a lot for asking, and your request being able to do a 3-click point to point and then where the position of the dimension is, that's a feature request that we will make sure we write down. That is not going to show up in X13, but I'll make sure that we write that down and capture it. Of course, we do have quite a few requests, and sometimes it's difficult for us to get through all of those, but thanks a lot for the questions today.
Scott, we have Stephanie Samuel with a question. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. It was very nice. Appreciate it. My question is, and you may have said this earlier, when is version 13 going to be released? When can we get on that one?
Yeah, so we expect that will come out at sometime the first half of this year. We typically, Stephanie, go through a beta program, and that beta program will be starting in the first quarter here. And if you're interested in participating in that, you can always apply just by sending a note to beta@chiefarchitect.com.
I don't think I'm ready for that yet, because literally I just got my program on November 30th. And so I am brand new to this, and one of the problems I was having is how to get my dimensions to be only in inches, because I do primarily use this for kitchen and bath.
Oh,
and
sure.
I wanted it to be at the NKBA standard. So
Right.
I was even having problems trying to find the right places to make those changes. So that's
Mhm.
why when I saw that this webinar was going to be presented, I immediately jumped on because I was like, this is what I need help with.
Yeah. So as a new user of the program, and if you're focused on kitchens and baths, one of the good things you can do in the program is make sure that you are using the template. Did you buy Chief Architect Premier or Chief Architect Interiors?
I just did interiors because I was brand
Mhm.
new, and I
Okay,
figured,
perfect.
if I get to a point where I can use the Premiere, then I would probably, when it comes time to, I would just upgrade to that. But I primarily use it for interiors and kitchens and baths. That's all.
Yeah. So make sure when you're using the program that your save plan view is on kitchen and bath.
Hmm.
And then the default dimensions that you can always verify. If I zoom in a little bit, you'll see my dimensions here in inches. You can always verify that underneath the edit active view, and underneath the selected defaults, you'll notice that my dimensions are in kitchen and bath.
Okay.
And if you just kind of look at the properties behind any of those, you can always change them. There is a primary format that you can choose from a variety, but I typically always have mine in inches when I'm doing kitchen and bath related work, and
Okay.
that's where that setting is. Also, when you take your elevation views, is very similar. When you open that view up, if I just open up this view, there's a very similar process. Again, notice that if I go back in here, my selected defaults are also using kitchen and bath. So I'm always going to be using those in inches.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And
you
then my
bet.
next question is very quickly, how soon will this be up? I know you guys are recording this. How
Mhm.
soon can it be before I can refer to this again? I'll probably watch this at least 3, 4 more times.
Perfect. You should be able to see this, I would imagine, before the end of tomorrow. And
Okay.
also, again, I just kind of like to refer people, if you're new to the program, one of the things you can do is underneath when you open up the program in your startup options, there is a setting here for new users start here. And
Hmm.
there's great resources. If I kind of pull that over in here, you can see that we have quick start videos and information on how to use these things. There is the interior information and lots of good resources out here for using the program. There's also training programs that you can use. If you look at the on-demand training, we specifically have a kitchen and bath training that will be on demand. You can do that at any time. Also, that class is going to be offered as a live virtual class, and that class will be starting the first part of February.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so
You
much.
bet. Thanks a lot for calling in today.
You're welcome.
Scott Renee typed in his question. He said he was curious to see if we have new snapping ability for exterior dimensions such as head jamb height.
So if I understand your question, maybe it's related to the header information and being able to snap to those. I think that our snapping has improved. We've also changed the way some of the headroom works. You can adjust your headers to either be at the top of the opening or just below the top plate. And you should find tools that work pretty well in being able to snap to those items with X13.
Nice. All right.
Hey, you're back. You
Oh,
got
I
your
am
mic.
here. How's it going? Happy New Year,
Yeah.
Scott.
Well, thank you.
All right, Scott, we had Mary write in. She doesn't have a mic. She wants to know, can you discuss dimensions to rough openings? I can't seem to get them to be consistent, she says.
Okay, sure. So let's just pop back into the program here. And if we slide over into maybe this design over here, and if you're going to be doing your dimensions and you want a dimension to the rough opening, let me switch this so we can see it. And let's suppose that I want to dimension this window to the rough opening. And currently, if you look at my dimension default, let's explore what we have set up. So I've got this dimension default specifically for rooms. And if we were to go in there and just take a look at what's going on for the locate, and when I run our openings, currently I don't have it set to be on, but let's turn it on. So you're going to notice that for openings, I have a few options. Many interior designers like to use casing because they like to know the wall space is available to them. But if your question is related to being able to dimension to the rough opening, I'm going to go ahead and enable that to the rough opening. Now let's go ahead and close this. I've updated that dimension default. And now when I run this dimension and we click this through there, let's just remove that other dimension, pull that in and run the dimension, you're going to notice that it's now going to the rough opening. If I were to turn on the layers for framing and everything, you can see that that dimension is going out to that rough opening. And that's how you can control precisely where your dimensions go, is by going into those settings. Again, I clicked on the Edit Active View. I modified my dimension default. And underneath of the locate options, I changed how that's going to behave. If it's something you do all the time, you may consider just making it its own dimension default. Then you can use this from a drop down. If you look at my availability of dimension defaults, I have a few that I may add in here that may not be shipping with your program. And hopefully that helps with dimensioning to your rough openings.
Thanks, Scott. We have Melinda here with a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, thank you so much for taking questions. I really appreciate your help. And Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Thank you. I'm noticing on the toolbar next to the default dimensions and the layers,
Yes.
I seem to be missing a few things there, and I'm wondering how to get those up. Where you're picking the floor plan view templates and the open active view, how do I get, those are missing on mine. I only have the default settings and the display options, but to the left of that isn't showing.
Yeah.
So that's one question. And then the other is, I notice on your section elevation, they're showing as an actual call out instead of a camera.
Okay.
So,
Oh, you're talking about, yeah, let's
floor plan, yeah. And then I noticed your labels on the elevations and sections themselves also have a call out number associated with them.
Yeah, so let's see if we can kind of work through your questions. Let me make sure that I
Thank you
have
so much.
yeah. So the first thing is for your toolbar.
Yes.
What product are you using?
Home Designer Pro.
Okay.
Is that why?
So, yeah, so that's our do-it-yourselfer product line.
Okay.
And so the Home Designer Pro is the do-it-yourselfer product line. And there are a few features that I'm showing obviously today. This is Chief Architect Premier that I'm using, and that's positioned for the professional designer. So a few of those tools you just don't have access to because that's really not designed for the professional designer. That's for the serious home enthusiast. So with that said, I mean, you can rent Chief Architect Premier for $200, or you can get full credit and upgrade to it from Home Designer Pro, if that's something you need. But that's the reason why your toolbars won't match what I'm using.
Okay, so there's no way to click on the different floor plan views in this product.
Well, yeah. So we don't have saved plan views in Home Designer. That's kind of a productivity feature that we've implemented just for the professional market.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think some of your other questions you can probably control. So when you take a camera view, and in this case I've run a section view, and you see how my views, these A, B, and C callouts, you can control the way they look in your program by clicking on the camera, and then you can use the open button, which is next. It's in my far left-hand corner, my menu down here, little open sign.
Yeah.
And you can open that up, and on your plan display, you can choose to display this as a call out. And I believe that's also true in your Home Designer product. And then you can obviously customize this, the size, and maybe any information you want about how that call out would look.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then the same is true when I think your last question was related. If I open up my layout sheet here, let's just pull that over. When I send my views out to a layout sheet, you'll notice that I actually have the same type of call out down below in this far left-hand corner.
Yes.
So I've just used in the layout sheet, I've used a call out, and then again, I've configured it to have a filled arrow on it, and then the size of it, and then I put the name in there. So that's just an option in your layout sheet where
So
you
are
can
you
place
then, I'm sorry, are you then suppressing the label of the elevation and then separately adding a call out?
It's exactly right, because I like it to look a little bit more professional.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's not the right word. I have a particular style, and this is the style I happen to like. So I suppress the automatic label when you send this viewport out. There is a layer for that. I suppress it, and then I just put in my own text and my own call out down here
Okay.
to make it look this way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Does
And
that
then
work?
I see the you have the scale below. Is that just a separate text box?
Yeah, and if I were, let me see if I can grab this easily. Let's pull that over here. What page number was that? That's page 22. So when you place this text, if we zoom in just a little bit, I've got this text box, and if you just look at this, this is actually considered a rich text tool. You'll
Mhm.
find that, again, I'm not sure exactly where your menu is, but you'll find a text tool, and I use the rich text tool that is on the far left-hand side of my menu. And then when you're placing this text, what I've done here is I've controlled
Oh,
the initial text and have it left justified at a certain size, 1/4 inch in this case, and then the bottom text, which is my scale, smaller, 1/8 inch.
gotcha.
That's
Perfect.
that's right, justified. And that's how I typically do this. I save it in my template plan, so really I have a shell for every new project I start, and then I'm just kind of changing it around based on the project that I'm working on for that particular
Yes,
project.
that's exactly what I needed. Thank you. And I'm on this screen also where there's the right, left, it looks like you're able to switch between different layout views. Is that also not a feature in the one that I'm using?
Yeah, actually, Home
Okay.
Designer Pro, I've got, I think I probably have several pages in here if you take a look. Yeah. And one
Because
of
it only
the,
lets me open one layout at a time.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
Home Designer Pro feature, and it
yeah,
is unlocked in the higher.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, we're kind of just focused on the professional tool for the webinar here today. So few
Yeah.
features that you might not have access to in that product line.
No, that's really helpful to know the differences. Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
all your help with this today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Melinda, for calling in.
So we have Curtis here with a question. Hey, Curtis, go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, Scott. Yeah, this is actually my first time to ask a question on these webinars. I've seen a couple of them and I really enjoy them. However, today my computer, the screen froze up when you were doing the stepped section part of your presentation. Would you mind
Okay.
just repeating that?
Sure. So you were interested in a step section view, and let's
Correct.
see, I have that view up. So this is the example that I did. I stepped it around that cabinet, and if you take a look at it, you can see that it's stepped right there. If we go into, let me just close a couple things here. If we go back in, you can see that I've actually stepped that view right here. And what I've done is I started with a section camera, cut the section through the wall. That generates, let me close this over here. That generates a view of the entire model, right?
Right.
And if I want to step this around that cabinet, what you can do is go back into your floor plan view. And that camera is kind of grayed out right here because it's currently open. And what I can do is, one, I could clip it to the room. So let's just clip it to the room. So we'll come in here and clip it to the room. And then any of these section cameras, you can use the break tool,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
while this camera is selected, where is that darn thing? Let me undo that real quick. So while this camera is selected, where'd I go? There we go. You see the break tool that I have down here?
Yes.
Also the number 3 on the keyboard. So you can put a break in here, and I'm just going to kind of randomly click a break, and then I'm going to pull that right through this section. And then when we return back in there, that'll update, and you see how it's stepped around those cabinets?
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll do this with stairways, where you maybe have a shaped stairway or something and you want to get just the right view through the section, then you can step it through those areas.
Okay. Oh, that's easy enough. I just, like I said, my screen just froze up and I didn't see how you did that. I heard you talk about it, but I didn't see how you did it. But yeah, that's pretty simple. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Curtis.
Scott, let's check in with Lisa. Hey, Lisa, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Lisa.
2 questions primarily. First one is, any recommendations on call-out tools when you're doing them in a small room? I tend to get a lot of information packed in a bathroom, and I might have 4 call-outs. Any recommendation? I've tried playing with it, and if you could comment on that. And the second question I have is, when you're dimensioning your elevations, your cabinets, if you're doing, like, for instance, a tall cabinet, is there a way to, and I apologize if there is, and I just haven't found it, is there a way to snap to like a door height, you know, where you want to really specify that you want it to be 54 inches or whatever? I've had challenges doing that unless you start separating the cabinetry. And my last comment is maybe down the road you guys can have a webinar on stairs. I'd love that.
Okay. So one of your questions was for small rooms for a bathroom. And if we kind of slide over here where I have this bathroom and the kitchen or the closet, are you talking about call outs like I have for these cameras, B1, C3?
Correct. Like in the shower, the shower is a prime example, because I mean, now that you've got that new, that new tool in 13, that's going to help. But you know, if I'm dropping 4 wall elevations in that little shower area and I'm getting into a lot of details, there just gets to be, even if I draw it at half-inch scale or whatever, gets to be a lot of stuff that people are having to navigate through to figure out what's what.
Yeah, I'm looking for an example that I use periodically when I run into those issues. So let me see if I can find that real quick. What I end up doing is doing a custom symbol here. So what I've done in this case, if I kind of zoom in, you see this master closet. What I've done here is I've got 4 elevations, and I've done this C1, 2, 3, 4 symbol to designate and try to avoid it, because this is a pretty small room for a master closet. And all that is text and a couple of rectangles.
Okay. So you just set it up in your library and you modify it per job.
And all that is a rectangle. And then obviously I have the cameras. You see the cameras actually over here in the bathroom, M1, 2, 3. All I've done is put those cameras in the closet on a layer and not turn the layer on.
Right. Okay. So you just made them invisible so that,
so to speak,
clean it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to speak. Does that work for you?
Yeah. No, I can definitely try that. It's just really tough like in a two-person shower or something. That
Oh yeah,
when I
sure.
need every wall detailed and
Yeah.
heights and body sprays and all that other nonsense.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
So you
No,
can just create this as a text block, this, and save it in your library, and then reuse it. And obviously open it up and change it as you need to, because maybe you don't have a fourth elevation, you want to remove the number 4 out of it, and that's an easy way to just reuse that.
Okay, thank you. That's great.
What was your next question here?
Yeah, so a tall cabinet, like a pantry.
Oh, yeah.
It's one solid unit. For the life of me, I can't figure out how to dimension where I'm just noting where an upper cabinet's door starts, for instance.
Okay, so here's a closet that I have with a, maybe that's a tall cabinet, I'm not sure off the top of my head. But you want to dimension exactly where this cabinet starts? Is that would be a fair example?
If it's possible that I don't have to build two separate, like if I built two separate cabinets, I have no problem snapping to the top of the cabinet. It's when you do it as one cabinet and you start, doing a horizontal split and adding doors and all that, and it's still one solid unit. And then when I have to go to snap to it, it won't snap to it. So is there a method to do that, or do I have to just do a manual dimension?
Right. Okay, well, actually, while my machine was searching, I found that CAD call out in my library.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so here's an example where I've got a coffee station or something on the cabinet. And let's say that I want to dimension in between the hopper door and the cabinet doors here. That's
totally correct. Yes. If that was built as one entire unit. Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, in X12, what I would do is draw a CAD line.
Okay. Okay.
And then I would run my dimension as a CAD line,
like
right at that.
Snap to the CAD line sort of thing?
Right.
Right. Okay.
What we have done in Chief Architect X13 is you can dimension 2 cabinet faces.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
So if I were to look at my dimension defaults in here, and we come over and we look at my dimension defaults, I've built one for cabinet faces.
Right.
And if you take a peek inside what the settings are for that, I now have control in the cabinet category for both openings.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And for doors and drawer panels.
Who do we have to pay to get this sooner?
So now when I run my dimension, let's just cut a dimension down through here.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Let's pull that over. And it's picking up that other cabinet because I have a long reach on it. We'll just pull that off.
Oh, wow. That's great.
There we go.
Fantastic.
And you can also set these to, you notice that I have a 1/16 of an inch in between here, right? And that can be suppressed if you want to display and remove those gaps and remove it in there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay. Was that it on your questions?
Yeah, just how soon is all I need.
Yeah, well, our goal is to try to get our beta program out in the first quarter and then have the program shipping in the first half of the year.
Thank you for making all those changes. Those are all huge, great, fantastic improvements for sure.
You bet. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Scott, we have Jeffrey here with a question. Hey, Jeffrey, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hello, Scott. Thanks for putting this on. Yeah, I had 2 questions, one of which I solved, I think, as I was sort of waiting for the other questions to be asked, but it might be a good thing to sort of walk through, because although it was a kind of a boneheaded solution, it's something that I've been wrestling with for quite some time, and I've been using this since, I think, X4, something like that. So it's been a while. Anyway, what that question was using the tape measure, which I find really handy for sort of zooming in and calculating things, just to adjust the sensitivity, because it had been just in inches. And sometimes I want to zoom in on a crown molding or some sort of detail and get it into 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch or millimeters or centimeters and stuff like that. And of course, what I found was just hitting the control button while you're dragging tends to suddenly do that. So I think it's a good thing for people to know
Okay.
on that, because it's such a frequently a very handy tool to use.
Okay.
But the other thing, and this may have been solved by the other question, although it did a pretty quick walkthrough. When I'm doing elevation diagrams and I've added end panels to, say, base cabinets or full height cabinets or things like that, my drag dimensions never seem to be able to find the end of a furniture end panel or anything like that. They stop at the cabinet, or if I drag them further, they'll just, they'll go to a window or a door or anything. But I haven't been able to get it so that they select a planted, like an end panel. Is that something that is in the program? I'm using Premiere X12 right now. Is that something that's in this program now, or is it something coming up in X13, or who knows?
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for passing along the tip on using the tape measure tool. And on your second question for locating an end panel, let's say maybe you have an end panel on the end of a cabinet run or in a kitchen island, and it's an applied panel, it's sticking out an inch or so, and you want to be able to dimension to that and show that is that?
Yeah, exactly.
So in X12, you can show that by dimensioning and maybe adding a Cad line. In X13, actually I haven't tried that, so I might just pause here and see if there's any staff members on that know the answer to being able to dimension and maybe even see that end panel in the floor plan view.
Hey Scott, as far as I recall, we are not displaying in panels in X13 yet.
Okay.
I know we've heard that request before, but I don't believe that's currently in X13.
Okay.
Yeah, X14.
Yeah, X14, yeah.
Yeah, it would be a very handy feature to have, because I'm doing a lot of micro suites, and really everything is to the inch, half inch, quarter, whatever, and all the space is being used. And well, sometimes there can be a case where you put the dimensions on and they make a little bit of a longer filler strip because the end panel isn't specified, and then suddenly you have to scribe around a door or do something like that. It's just a great thing to have every element visible and specified. So good. Okay, well, not a bonehead question, but
No, and we'll make sure we capture that. I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. I'm sure that's not a unique thing, but we'll make sure we capture that.
Hey Scott, we have Natasha here. Hey Natasha, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, thanks. So mine's actually related to the last one, and you're actually freaking me out by saying that X13 is not going to show the end panels, because I'm mostly a kitchen designer and I've only been using this for a year. And related to the last question, my frustration is the way we do our kitchen design is for end panels and fascia and light rails, we have them flush with the door. And so when I'm doing the box construction, I can't just add the end panel because it's only to the box. So I have to add a separate door that I create as my end panel, and I make it 7/8 of an inch wider so it's flush with the door. So I do that also with I don't just add the molding to the cabinet. I have my own fascia and molding that's a separate piece that I add on so I can have that flush with the end panels. So when I'm dimensioning, I have tons of different things that it's snapping to. And like the last gentleman said, I'll go as close to a window as, 1/8 of an inch maybe. So I need to see exactly where that end panel is hitting close to the window, so I'm not going into the casing. And so and I know when I pull the dimension line, I see the diamonds and I can sometimes tell, oh, it's hitting this instead of the end panel, and I'll pull it away. But other times I can't figure it out. And my request or question is sometimes when you hold the control key down and you drag your line, it will click to what you want it to, but other times it just won't. And I will zoom in so close and my line will be exactly over the line I want. And I'll have the control key down, and I just don't know why when you let go, it doesn't just stay. All of a sudden it'll just move 1/8 of an inch or something for no reason.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Okay, well, let's take a look at your questions and maybe tick these off one by one. Let's take and put a cabinet on one of these walls. We've got a little bit of room back over here. And let's just throw a cabinet on this wall back here. And we'll put an end panel on it. And you will be able to see this in an elevation. So let's just make sure we open this up. And on the right-hand side of the cabinet, what I'm going to do is put an end panel on here. So we'll go to the right and we're going to stick a panel on the right-hand side. Shoot, custom face, sorry.
But I
And we'll
currently can't do it this way because it won't be flush with the door. Unless you guys change it where I can change the width of that end panel, but in X12 you can't.
okay,
So I have to
have
do
you
a
used an
door.
inset? You want it to be flush with the door. So
Yeah,
currently
so
this is, okay, so currently this is a frameless cabinet, I'm assuming, right?
yep.
And if you zoom in on the side of it, currently that's basically flush. I'm sure there's a 1/16 of an inch reveal on that side, but that's pretty much flush, right? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I guess that kind of does. But if you have like, if I'm doing like a shaker door,
Yeah.
then I have like a shaker end panel and you can tell it's not as deep as the door. It only
Okay.
goes to the base of the
So
cabinet.
what I would
box.
probably do, does the inset panel work for you?
I don't think I've ever tried that.
Okay. So the inset basically makes it flush. It's not sticking out in any way.
Okay.
Okay. And if let's just take a 3D view of this real quick. Library browser framed. There we go. Okay, so I put an inset framed shaker style door on the side panel. Is that what you're after?
No, so I would want that to come all the way to the left so that the left side of that panel is flush with the front of the door.
Okay, so in that case, what I would do is I would place this door individually.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. And then I have the and sometimes it's hard for the dimension lines to it's like a 3/4 inch door. And a lot of times the dimension line just like, sometimes it works, but other times it doesn't want to click on that panel. And then I just don't, I guess my main question is like, why can't, if you're just holding down the control key, I feel like you should be able to drag the dimension line wherever you want and it should click to it. And sometimes it just doesn't want to.
Okay, so if I take this door and I place it separately, and we basically snap it to the end of the box, and we pull it in each direction, and I'm just going to snap it in both directions, right?
Yep, but you can't see your front door on this right now. So normally I would pull it even further because I would see the outline of the door on the front.
Okay, well let's make sure we turn that layer on. So let's grab the doors and drawers, make sure the layer is on, and let's just open the cabinet up so that we can display that as open so they're not poking out. So I'm going to just click on the door, show that it's open 0%, and let's then open that up so we see it. Okay, so there's the door, right? So let's zoom in, and you want to pull that out. Let's turn on our crosshair so we can get that in. We'll just pull that right into that area right there. Is that kind of what you're after?
Yep. And then so then imagine that being a wall cabinet, and then I'm putting, fascia and crown molding over it. So I have a big rectangle over that. So there's lots of layers on top of each other. So when I'm then dimensioning my plan, a lot of times it has a hard time recognizing then like the end panel, because then the fascia and crown molding are on top of it, kind of hiding the lines.
So basically what I'd probably do, Natasha, is I'd set up some dimension defaults. So it's only going to pick up certain things, and also maybe turn off the layers when you're running dimensions. Because if you've got your moldings and different things that are obstructing your view, then the program's layers maybe help you to isolate some of those things.
Yeah. I mean, I actually need I need the dimensions of the moldings and the casings and all that too. But yeah,
Well,
I get
sure.
your point. I'll play around
Yeah.
with that.
So yeah, I would just use your dimension defaults, and that way it can help you isolate exactly what you're trying to do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for calling in. Happy New Year.
Scott, we have a couple more questions. The next one comes from Rick Sir Louis.
Hello, hi Scott. Got a question for you. We're building custom cabinets off of our chief designs. So yeah, I'd never learned the way to take a chief elevation view, remove the doors and drawer fronts, and produce only a face frame or a box. I'd
Okay.
like to be able to take that face frame or box and have detailed dimensions and call that a shop drawing and send it to my shop guys and have them build the face or the boxes off of that.
Okay. And so maybe something, I'm just grabbing something that would have, in this example, this cabinet, I popped off the oven and the drawer, and you want to be able to draw something that would look similar to this?
Yeah, it would just be any typical kitchen, and you'd remove the doors and drawers and have the face frame dimensions.
Okay. So Rick, one of the things we've done in X13 to help with that specific thing, because in X12 today, what you need to do is draw some Cad lines, which is exactly what I kind of did with this drawing here. Is I just did some Cad lines in X12. And in X13, we've enabled you to do that. And if we close a couple of things that I have open here, and let's just kind of go in here and open up a camera view. Make sure that I have this right for you. So if you want to take and turn the layer off for the cabinet doors and drawers, and then run your dimensions, let's just grab one of these guys and turn off the doors and drawers. Turn off the layer. A little weird because I have glass indicators on here. So using this view, of course I have shelves in here, you would want to be able to dimension so you can show what the details are for the box.
Correct.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my Edit Active Defaults tool up here in the upper section of my menu. And I'm going to come down to my dimension defaults. And I have a dimension default specifically that I've created for openings. And if you look at the details of this, there's a section for the cabinets, and I've enabled it just for openings. This is an X13 feature. We've also added the function for only dimensioning the doors and drawers. So with that dimension default set up to grab openings, and we run a dimension down through this box, let's run it down through this box as well. I'm now picking up the door fronts as well as the door fronts. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that does. It's more useful on the bases because you got the drawer hole, and you could have a 2-drawer, 3-drawer, 4-drawer, or
Right.
a door. So that tells my shop guys what the rails and stiles are going to be for that particular box. They can make the box and then fasten the doors in, and they're good to go.
Yeah.
Good for the wall cabinets, but you're looking at shelving, and that's not quite as critical.
Right.
The left to right would be critical for the wall cabinet as opposed to the up to down.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
Scott, our last question comes from Amanda. Hi, Amanda. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, I probably have a really simple question and I'm just not figuring it out myself, but one of my files, when I'm working in it in the plan view, my cabinet lines that would normally show like the dashed lines between each cabinet aren't showing up. So it looks like one long run of cabinets in my plan view instead of seeing those dashed lines.
So in the elevation view, or sorry, in the plan view, you're not seeing the definition for the different cabinet boxes in here.
Right. Like I have the front and the back line, but not the lines where cabinets are meeting.
So you're missing this center line right here.
Correct.
And well, the first thing, I'm not sure if this would be exactly right, but these are probably considered the cabinet module lines. And that's a
Okay.
layer. And if you turn that on and turn that off, when I turn mine off, you see how it disappears?
Yep, that is what it was. I guess I just didn't know what the terminology was to look for it, I guess.
So a lot of times, Amanda, when you click on an object, what's going to happen if you have your active layer display set panel open, it will typically show you most of the layers associated with that object.
Okay.
And that's an easy way to turn things on or off.
Okay, yeah, that makes total sense. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thanks for calling in.
I think that's it then for today, Scott.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for attending today's session. We really appreciate it. We will be sending out a survey in the next day or so, and we'd appreciate any feedback you get. Also in that survey will be the link to the recording of the session today. So please take time to give us a little bit of feedback. We always appreciate it. A couple of things I wanted to bring up for you. We do have virtual training starting for the new year, new training. So if you want to meet your New Year's resolution to be more proficient at Chief Architect, we have a few classes coming up. Our introductory class will be starting in a couple weeks, as well as the intermediate class. So those are coming up in a couple weeks. They both start January 20th. These classes are set up to be in 4-hour segments across 4 days. And it's a nice way to learn from the comfort of your office or your home. We have a kitchen and bath class that will start the first week in February, and you can sign up for those. Those classes are on sale. And we have on-demand training. These are classes that you can sign up for. The introductory class is free. You can watch these at any time. We also have an intermediate and a kitchen and bath class. These are very similar to the instructor-led classes, but they're self-paced. You can control it on how your schedule comes up. And then we're doing these live webinars. We've been doing them on Thursdays. Today's session was on interior dimensions. We will have those coming up on the following Thursdays. I'll show you the schedule of that. We have a boot camp that will start on Friday. If you're a little bit new to the program or would like to kind of get a refresher, the boot camp is a free session. We'll start this Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Make sure you sign up for that. Next week, we'll be back. We'll be talking about some of our CAD tools for productivity and how to use those. And then the following Thursday, we've got layout templates. And then the following Thursday, end of the month, we're going to be talking about 360 renderings. And we hope to see you on those sessions. So have a great day. Happy New Year to all, and hopefully see you back soon.